Hi everybody, it's Stan again. Just a quick video today to show what I've been up to. I'm on a couple of weeks off at the moment, so I've had plenty of time to play with the D20. Yeah, we've started with that short clip of the model running, now that's stripped back. I've got a couple of views, as you can see, of the cab interior before and after my modifications. There's a few detail views of the the additions I made, with additional detail I've added to the front end with the cylinder mounting bolts, then the new frame profile. Just a quick snip to show how I put side control on the D20. As you can see, there's a single wire coming from the bogey pin leading up through the motion plate, and it works quite well. Just watch how it goes around the corner. This is a second radius curve, and look at that. How's that for tracking? It'll keep the body looking a bit better. I've got a couple of stills here of how I did the rivets. I'm using Railtech 3D printed rivets. As you can see, they show up quite nicely on the black painted smoke box. Just once they're dry, you just simply paint over the top of them. I've had no issues using lacquer-based acrylics, so I'm confident with those. They're quite easy to apply and certainly a lot easier than drilling holes. As we progress through the build, you can see how I painted it. I do use multiple different shades of black. In this case, it's all SMS. The main body and vertical sides and all the clean bits are RAF Sky, but I've used Cark Black and Ozcam Black for the smoke box and cab roofs and all the horizontal bits. Basically, all the bits that aren't being polished by the fitters. And we finish up with a view of the chassis. It's not going to be as clean because it obviously wouldn't have been cleaned that much by the fitters, so it's a lot more dirty, and it will look quite good underneath it. Following that, I've also been starting to scenic the railway. Decided with some inspiration from Jonathan Newton that bare tracks I was getting a bit bored with bare tracks. So I've been painting rails and starting to ballast. And the next couple of clips are basically the process I've adapted or been inspired by Jonathan to do. So enjoy. Yeah. Hey everyone, just a quick update. I've started painting my track. Initially I'm going to start painting the rails and then the sleepers and then I'll ballast. What I've started with is I've just painted the rails with just these worn acrylics. I've used a mixture of all three, just on either side. One thing I haven't done is I haven't checked that I've got droppers on all the sections of track, so I may have to come back and revisit some of the rails. I'm not sure whether the paint will get into the track joiners and insulate them, and if that does, I'll have to just scrape it back, add another dropper and do it that way. So yeah, just as I just basically painted the sides of the rail with a brush, dead easy. Nice thing about the Bourne acrylics is they're taking a little while to dry, and since then I'm now going over with a mix of rust powders. Basically I've got life colour. I'm using life colour rust because that's what I bought initially, but whatever rust tones you've got. I'm using a mixture of all three. I'm also mixing in a bit of browns as well, just to keep the tones from being too even. One thing I'm not a fan of is using the same tones on everything. And what I found is the Bourne, because the Bourne acrylics are a little bit semi-gloss, or maybe even glossy, this really cuts down the shine and brings them back to a much more natural. And being slightly tacky, I don't think I'm going to have to go over the rails again with a varnish to keep the pigments from flying away or disappearing as time goes by. But yeah, I'll just come down onto the frog here. We zoomed in, yeah, we've zoomed in, and as you can see, it really does bring up quite a nice effect. So yeah, I'm just going to slowly work on this over the next few weeks. I do have a kilo of ballast that I bought from Matt's Ballast probably a couple of years ago now, when I first started this, and then of course I wasn't going to detail it. Alright, just keeping up with the rust powders. A few areas here I've been a bit light on with them, with the acrylic, so I might need to go back over it again. But yeah, we're just having lots of fun. Might have to get some more dark out. The life colours came with a new rust, a bright rust, which I don't really like, it's quite orange, and a burnt rust, which is a nice dark brown colour, and I definitely like that and use a lot of it, and no doubt it'll be the first I run out of. But yeah, I'll let this set for a little while. I'll quickly run a sanding block over it later, just to polish up the rail tops, and yeah, we'll just take it from there. But yeah, part of the reason for doing this is we haven't moved as quickly as I thought we were going to, and the good old fur babies have a habit of scratching. They like digging things up, and despite the fact I'm using 20mm panel pins for track pins rather than track pins, they still occasionally rip the bloody things up, which is kind of awkward. But anyway, it is what it is. It's the joys of trying to make a model railway with cats in the family. It is what it is. Can't have it both ways. Now I will go back over all of this again once I've ballasted, just to blend it all down. But this is pretty much all I need to do with the rails at the moment. I'll go over the sleepers and grey them down very shortly. That'll be the next step. Probably should have done that first, but anyway, this will do. But yeah, I think that's looking much better. You can see from the rails in front, or even the old 1970s strip at the back, it's definitely making a big difference. Don't know if I can do much about the back. I don't know whether I can actually reach it. It's sort of, no, maybe. I might be able to do something. It's not on this side anyway. I can't get to the back of it, but that's not going to be a major issue. Now that we've done that, I'm just going to quickly go over the sleepers. I'm just going to use a black and a white. Here in Australia, most sleepers are made from ironbark, and they very, very quickly weather. Even though they're creosoted and start as a dark brown, they very quickly weather to a pale grey. And I found, I was looking last night on Railcam, or looking at the sleepers at North Yorkshire Moors, and I've noticed that the oak sleepers there also very quickly go grey. So that's the aim, is to replicate that grey. I mean, I might be wrong. You know, maybe those in the UK could probably tell me otherwise, that maybe they don't go grey, but I'm never really happy with the sort of weird brown colour that most commercial makers use for sleepers. Again, I'll probably go over these and highlight them. I did experiment with some intense watercolour pencils, just to see if we can highlight a few things. I think as I use dry, they'll be okay. I don't know that they're going to do much if I use them wet. I think the ink will just smudge and they'll become a bit, oops, it's a bit heavy. Yeah, the ink will smudge and they won't look too good, but anyway, it's all good fun. We just experiment, and eventually if we get an effect that looks plausible, looks realistic, then I'm going to be happy with it. Oops, too heavy with the paint. Let's keep going. There we go. Ballasting I probably won't show you. There's nothing fantastic about ballast. I'm just going to use the old watered down PVA method. I've probably got some ballast left over from years ago, and I've got a kilo of Matt's ballasting. It's a grey, so that will do. Again, very similar to what North Yorkshire Moors are using, which is roughly the area I'm working in anyway. Yeah, I figured I'd show you the first step in the process of what I'm using on the track. I'm using a basis of 4 colours: Sahara, which is actually more of a yellow ochre from Bourne, Chestnut, which is a nice reddy brown, Raw Sienna, and with a dark brown called that they call espresso. Let's see, and I'm just painting along the rails, a little bit of water sometimes just to thin it out, it doesn't go astray. Remember, I'm going to cover this with weathering powders, so it will come up quite nicely. I will come back from the other side and do the other side of the rails. Just excuse my wife, it's Raiders are playing and it's a very tight match, or it was last time I looked. And yeah, she's hoping that they make the finals this year. Don't know whether they will or not. I don't think they're going to get too far somewhere or other, but I haven't got the heart to tell her that. But anyway, they'll do their best. But yeah, it's pretty much, this is how we do it. It's a little bit awkward, so normally I work a bit faster because I'm moving around the camera and the lights and what have you. But yeah, like I said in the other video, the other clip, I try and keep the colours varied, so I mix it up on the rail. You can always come back and go over it again. There it is. So it's a little bit too yellow there. I might put a bit of that up here. Now I think from memory most buffer stops had white panels, so I will come back and paint that white later. I think the main thing now is to get it down, get the rust colour down. I've been having a look too. I've got to go to Bunnings later this week, so I'll have a look and see what they've got in the way of fine gravel staked as ballast. I do have a kilo or so of official ballast, but there's a lot of gaps and high spots here that if I can fill that with something, I'm going to have a look at some decomposed granite that might work, or the finer parts of it might work, and we'll just have a look and see what I can get. And then we can really start ballasting. I will do a little bit of ballasting between now and then, but unfortunately when I put the foam core down, it's raised everything by 5 or 6 mil. I don't recommend using foam core for road gauge. You might get away with it with in the smaller scales, end gauge, definitely with no weight. But for some strange reason I thought, oh, I'll give it a spin because of noise reduction, and of course I never run at any speed, so track noise is not really an issue. When I build a full size layout where I can run at mainline speeds, I will look at something, whether it's cork or whether I look to something like some rubber or neoprene or something like that, I don't know, but we'll work that out when we get there. I'm sure people have got ideas on how best to sound deaden things. I know Peter L from the US uses a rubber sheeting which may well work quite effectively, so I'll give that a spin. I'll see if I can get something similar out here in Australia. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. And I'm miles away from where we're working. And finally we finish up with a Starbeck moment. I thought I'd get the 3 Starbeck machines, although no, 4922 is technically a Neville Hill locomotive at the period I've got it. It was a Starbeck machine, so the 3 of them together would be quite realistic and probably did happen quite frequently.